Alright guys, Vegito here, and welcome back to the Potara Podcast. And today, we're covering our first Yu-Gi-Oh! What If. And I know I said that What If Pegasus was Jaden's dad would be the first Yu-Gi-Oh! What If I covered, but after thinking about it for a bit, I decided to pick a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters What If instead, since I know for the casual fans, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters is more familiar and would probably get more views. So I decided to do What If Yugi and Joey were brothers, aka what if Solomon and Muto adopted Joey and Serenity. And I definitely think you guys will like what I've got cooking for this story. Also, for anyone curious, we'll be using the subbed anime continuity for this What If, meaning there will be no Shadow Realm at all, since that was a dubism to censor death. Also, if you like the content, be sure to subscribe, since it's free, and if you feel the content is no longer for you, you can always unsubscribe. Also, you can support the channel by joining the Patreon for just $3 a month, which will get you early access to all of my content from both channels, and will get you a shout out at the end of every video. Now, let's get started. We'll begin this story off with the premise, which takes place around the time that Joey and Serenity's parents get divorced in canon, with their parents driving down the road on their way home, as the two get into a rather heated argument, causing Joey's father to get distracted behind the wheel. This would cause the car to run off the road, crashing into a big tree, which would ultimately claim the lives of both of Joey's parents, causing both him and Serenity to be orphaned at a young age. The two are then sent off to a nearby orphanage after learning the tragic fate of their parents, with Joey promising Serenity that he will not leave the orphanage unless the two Wheeler siblings can remain together. A few months pass, with the pair of siblings playing with each other on the playground, as the caretaker approaches them, telling the pair of siblings that they have a visitor. Joey and Serenity then follow the caretaker to another room, where they see an older man with gray hair tucked into a bandana, a well-trimmed beard, and kind eyes, with the man introducing himself to the pair as Solomon and Muto, as the man asks if they'd like to come live with him and his grandson Yugi, with Yugi being the reason why he's here today. Despite the boy's kind heart and tenacity, the boy has no friends to call his own. After hearing this story, Joey and Serenity agree to come live with him. A few hours pass, with Solomon arriving at the game shop with his two new grandchildren, with the older man declaring, "Yugi, I'm back, and I brought guests," with a boy coming down the stairs that looks to be about Joey's age. The boy appears to have the same spiky hair as Solomon, although it's in 3 different colors, with the front spikes being blonde, while the spikes in the back are black with a magenta sheen. The boy introduces himself to the two children as Yugi Muto, as Solomon explains to Yugi that Joey and Serenity are going to be joining their family, as Solomon asks Yugi to give the pair of siblings the grand tour of the game shop, along with their apartment upstairs. And during this tour, Yugi ends up telling the pair about the Millennium puzzle, and about all the games at the game shop, with Yugi and Joey discovering they have a lot in common, such as their age, along with their kind and caring nature, so they end up hitting it off rather quickly. And also, Yugi ends up becoming friends with Serenity. After the tour is over, Yugi also ends up showing the pair of siblings the box containing the pieces of the Millennium puzzle, with Joey and Serenity promising that they'll help him put it together to the best of their ability. From here, a couple years pass, with the 3 Muto siblings living together, while Joey tries helping Yugi solve the Millennium puzzle. The Serenity tries to help too, but she isn't really able to do much through this activity due to her declining eyesight. Also during this time, Solomon ends up 23 siblings a new game called Duel Monsters, as Yugi ends up excelling at the game, even playing in a couple local tournaments. While Joey isn't as good at the game as Yugi, he's about as skilled at the game as he was at the beginning of Duelist Kingdom in canon. Also, Serenity ends up learning the basics of the game, although she never really became all that good due to her poor eyesight not allowing her to be able to read the cards properly. A few years pass from here, as Joey ends up going to the same middle school as Yugi. And since it's never confirmed that Yugi went to the same middle school as Joey and Tristan in canon, this means that Joey and Tristan never meet, and as a result, never become friends. A couple years pass, with Yugi and Joey working hard to improve their Duel Monsters skills, and working on solving the Millennium puzzle with Serenity, with Yugi and Joey eventually being able to solve the puzzle, with the pair being surrounded by a bunch of shadow creatures. As Joey says, "Yeah, Yugi, there's monsters crawling all over the place! You and Serenity, get behind me!" The shadow creatures then prepare to attack the three siblings, but the trio is protected by a mysterious force. As Yugi, he transforms into a taller, more serious version of himself, with the shadow creatures disappearing shortly after this taller Yugi tells him to be gone. Yugi then transforms back into his normal self as Joey asks his brother, "Hey Yugi, what was that?" With the boy with tritone hair saying, "I honestly don't know, Joey." Yugi decides to take the Millennium puzzle off and heads to bed, prepare for school the next day. A few days pass from there, with school being rather uneventful, as the bros decide to head over to Serenity's middle school to pick her up, and then head over to Burger World to get a bite to eat. Our trio then arrive at Burger World, as they're surprised to see someone from their school working there, a brown-haired girl named Taya Gardner. As the three head over to a table, as Taya brings over a plate of burgers, fries, and drinks, before angrily drowning them in ketchup. Yugi then asks Taya why she's working at Burger World, as Taya decides to tell them, since they already know their secret. As the brown-haired girl says she's working at Burger World to save up enough money to go to America after she graduates. Joey then proceeds to ask why she wants to go to America, as Taya says they shouldn't laugh, but she wants to go study dance in New York. Taya then asks the trio why they aren't laughing, as Joey's asks why would they laugh at her for wanting to accomplish her dream. And just then, an escaped convict walked into Burger World with a stolen gun. Taya then welcomes him in, asking if he's here by himself, as the convict grabs Taya, covering her mouth and pointing a gun to her head, screaming out, "Alright! Anyone makes a sound and this girl dies!" Everyone in the restaurant freaks out at this, warning him out as the escaped convict Jackpot. Jackpot then hands Taya a ribbon before telling her to blind herself with it, as Jackpot then says that someone's gotta take his order, singling out Yugi to do so, afterward telling everyone else to get down on the ground and close their eyes. Jackpot then orders Yugi to go get him some booze and cigarettes, as Joey worries for his brother's safety. Taya then tells Yugi to stay back, as it isn't safe, but Jackpot then slaps Taya, as Yugi yells out for Taya, with the Millennium puzzle starting to glow. As Yugi once again transforms into the taller Yugi, for the night the bros and Serenity solved the Millennium puzzle. The taller Yugi then angrily says, "How dare you do that to my friend Taya! Your luck ran out when you chose me." The taller Yugi then brings over the booze and cigarettes and sits down in the booth with Jackpot. As Jackpot says, "Who told you that you could sit down?" As Yugi says that he just wants to play a game to pass the time. But whoever loses the game will die. Jackpot then asks the teen about the rules, as Yugi says that for the duration of the game, they'll only be allowed to move one of their 10 fingers each. Jackpot chooses index finger, while Yugi chooses his thumb. As the game starts, Jackpot gets the idea to end the game in an instant by using his index finger to pull the trigger. But Yugi uses his thumb to ignite the lighter to light Jackpot's cigarette, afterward dropping the lighter onto Jackpot's other hand that's pouring the booze. Jackpot starts freaking out, saying to himself that if he drops the lighter, he'll set the booze on fire. As Yugi points out the booze he's pouring is Russian vodka, which is 90% alcohol. Yugi then takes Taya and leaves Jackpot to his own devices, as Jackpot ends up dropping the cigarette in his mouth onto the vodka, lighting himself ablaze. Yugi then reverts back to his normal self as Taya removes her blindfold. Joey then approaches the pair, hugging his brother before saying that he's glad he's safe. From here, a few months pass as we arrive at the day of Joey's birthday, as Solomon decides to take his 3 grandkids out to celebrate, as Joey receives a new deck box from Yugi and 2 Duel Monsters cards from Solomon, the Blackluster Ritual Magic card and the Blackluster Soldier himself, as Joey hugs the older Muto, thanking him for giving him such a cool card, as Joey decides to plot his deck and put the 2 cards in, taking out Island Turtle for Blackluster Ritual and adding Blackluster Soldier to his fusion deck. In Duelist Kingdom, for some reason, Ritual Monsters went in the fusion/extra deck rather than the main deck. From here, about a month and a half passes, as the bros are currently sitting in class, listening to the teacher ramble on about something, as he's interrupted by the school principal, who coming in and introducing the class to a new student, a white-haired boy named Yami Bakura, as Bakura introduces himself to the bros and Taya, with Bakura deciding to watch the bros play Duel Monsters after class, as Bakura's pendant points to Yugi's puzzle with one of its prongs, with Yugi pointing out the similarities to Bakura's pendant and his Millennium puzzle. The white-haired boy deciding that in a new school, he should try to make some friends. From here, some time passes, as Yugi and Joey are in the middle of another game of Duel Monsters, as this game ultimately plays out like canon, with Yugi destroying Joey's Kagemusha of the Blue Flame with his Black Land of Fire Dragon. Bakura then says that it wasn't a very smart move to use such a monster against Yugi's dragon, as Joey then angrily says that if he's so sure, then why doesn't he take him on in a duel? After this, Bakura adds that he's never played Duel Monsters before, so he'd be at an extreme disadvantage, as Yugi says that his and Joey's grandpa owns a game shop, and that he's sure his grandpa would help Bakura become a duelist, and maybe he'll show him his super rare card. Just then, a brown-haired boy reading a novel in the back of the class then notes Yugi's mention of a rare card, wondering if it could be the rare card he's been searching for. After school, the bros, with Taya and Bakura in tow, head over to Serenity's middle school to pick her up, since Joey wouldn't trust her to walk home by herself due to her declining eyesight. Eventually, the group of 5 arrive in Solomon Muto's game shop, unknowingly being tailed by a boy in a limousine, as Yugi announces to his grandpa that he, Joey, and Serenity are home and that they've brought company. Solomon then welcomes the friends of his grandkids into his shop, as Yugi asks his grandpa if he can show his friends his super awesome rare card, as Solomon sees no problem with this, pulling out a Duel Monsters card in a protective case, revealing it to be the all-powerful Blue Eyes White Dragon, as Solomon reveals that the Blue Eyes White Dragon is so rare There are only 4 in all the world. As a brown-haired boy then opens the door to the game shop. Solomon then asks the boy if he can help him, with the brown-haired boy saying that he thinks he can. As Yugi and Joey recognize the boy as their classmate, Seto Kaiba, the president of the gaming company Kaiba Corp. Kaiba then explains that he's here to see the super rare card too, as Joey says that he didn't know that Kaiba played Duel Monsters as well, and that maybe they can play together sometime. Although Kaiba rudely remarks, "Me? Duel you? I'd have more of a challenge playing solitaire." Joey then responds to this saying, "Then why don't we settle this with fists instead of cards?" As Yugi and Serenity try holding back their brother. After all of this, Solomon then shows Kaiba the card. As Kaiba says that's the legendary Blue Eyes White Dragon, the very card he's been searching for. Kaiba says that he will pay anything to get the card, telling the man to name his price. As Solomon, knowing this would be the best opportunity to get the money needed to fund his granddaughter's eye surgery, considers this, as Solomon decides to inform Kaiba about the situation, and that he'll give him the blue eyes, on the condition that he pays for his granddaughter's eye operation. The bros then ask their grandpa if he's sure about this, as Solomon wisely says to the group that while the Blue Eyes White Dragon was given to him by a dear friend, considering the situation, Solomon thinks his friend would understand and probably have done the same thing if he were in his position. After hearing the story, Kaiba pulls out his checkbook before asking the old man how much he thinks the eye operation would cost, as Kaiba writes out the check. And after receiving the check, Solomon hands over the Blue Eyes White Dragon to Kaiba. Solomon then thanks Kaiba for helping him out, as Kaiba then shakes Solomon's hand saying, "Pleasure doing business with you. Hope the surgery goes well." A few days pass, as the bros are heading home from school, as Yugi tells his brother that he wants to try and improve on his current deck to try and make it stronger, with Joey suggesting that he should talk to Grandpa to get some ideas. Eventually, the bros arrive at a game shop, with Yugi deciding to ask his grandpa if he can help him improve his deck. Solomon hears his grandson's query and decides to let Yugi borrow his deck for a week to help Yugi get some ideas of what he wants to do. A couple days pass as Bakura approaches the gang, asking if they want to come over to his place to play Duel Monsters. As the bros don't see anything wrong with this, although Joey says that they can't stay too long as Serenity's eye operation is scheduled for the next day, as they finally manage to get the specialist to fly out from Germany for it. Bakura says that he understands and hopes that the operation goes well. After school, the gang then head over to Bakura's apartment to play Duel Monsters, with Bakura seeming not like himself. Yami Bakura is taking over Bakura's body at this moment in time, but Yugi and the gang don't know that. Bakura then says that he's got the table all set up to play, as Yugi and Bakura sit at opposite sides of the table, as Tay and Joey pull up a couple of chairs so that they also have a place to sit. But before they can start, Bakura's Millennium ring starts glowing, as Yami Bakura reveals himself, turning what was seemingly an innocent duel into a full-on shadow game. In response to this, Yugi's Millennium Puzzle activates, transforming Yugi into Yami Yugi. Bakura then says that it looks like both of their Millennium items have an ancient spirit inside them. Eventually, Bakura's ring expels out a purple fog, surrounding the two spirits, in addition to Joey and Taya, as the life point scores are set to 2,000, and Yugi and Bakura draw 5 cards each to begin the duel. Bakura says that he'll take the first move, drawing a card and summoning out a powerful monster, known as the Portrait Secret. As Taya says that it looks creepy, Bakura then ends his turn before allowing Yugi to take his. Yugi then draws his card and summons out a winged dragon, Guardian of the Fortress. and orders his dragon to attack, destroying the portrait's secret and taking Bakura's life points down to 1800. Yugi then ends his turn afterward. Bakura then draws his next card, deciding to call out the Earl of Demise, an extremely wicked creature, feared by both man and monster alike. Bakura then orders the Earl to attack Yugi's winged dragon guardian of the fortress, destroying it and causing Yugi to take 600 points of damage, leaving Yugi at 1400. After attacking, Bakura ends his turn. Yugi then draws and sees a rather weak monster called Right Leg of the Forbidden One. Yugi thinks that this card is useless at the moment and simply decides to set his zombie warrior in defense mode to defend his life points until he can draw something with more firepower. Bakura draws and has his Earl of Demise attack Yugi's face-down monster, destroying Yugi's zombie warrior. Afterwards, Bakura ends his turn. Yugi draws and manages to pull left arm of the Forbidden One. Seeing this, Yugi sets his Rude Kaiser face down in defense as a way to defend his life points. From here, Yugi ends his turn. Bakura then draws his next card and manages to pull a powerful card called Contract with the Dark Master, as Bakura decides to save this card for later, before ordering his Earl to attack Yugi's face-down monster, destroying the Rude Kaiser. Yugi then draws and manages to pull the powerful Summon Skull, as Yugi summons out the creature, using its attack strength at 2500 to finally vanquish Bakura's Earl of Demise, causing Bakura's life points to drop to 1300, as Yugi then ends his turn. Bakura is slightly surprised that Yugi managed to destroy his Earl, and then decides to set his Gross Ghost of Field Dreams in defense. Yugi then draws his next card, seeing he managed to pull Right Arm of the Forbidden One. Yugi sees these cards and remembers something his grandpa told him about the only unstoppable monster in all of Duel Monsters, Exodia the Forbidden One. However, Exodia can only be summoned by drawing all 5 special cards into your hand. Yugi then orders his Summoned Skull to attack Bakura's face-down monster, destroying Bakura's Gross Ghost of Field Dreams. After this, Yugi ends his turn. Bakura then draws the last piece he needs for his plan, as Bakura plays the powerful Change of Heart, taking control of Yugi's Summoned Skull, and then afterwards summoning his Souls of the Forgotten. Afterwards, Bakura then plays another magic card, a powerful ritual magic card called Contract with the Dark Master, allowing Bakura to sacrifice Yugi's Summoned Skull and his Souls of the Forgotten before ritual summoning out his most powerful monster, Dark Master Zork. As Bakura ends his turn, due to not being allowed to attack an opponent's life points directly, Yugi notes that he doesn't have anything in his deck that can help defeat Bakura's Zork card. The only hope he has is drawing the last 2 pieces of Exodia. Yugi then draws his next card, revealing it to be Swords of Revealing Light, as Yugi plays it, causing Bakura's Zork to be trapped for 3 turns. Yugi then sets a monster in defense in case Bakura had something to destroy his Swords of Revealing Light. Bakura draws and manages to pull Dark Ruler Hades, summoning it to the field in attack mode. And since Bakura's new monster isn't trapped by swords, Bakura has it attack and destroy Yugi's set Mammoth Graveyard. Yugi then draws the Dark Magician next, summoning it and ordering the Ultimate Wizard to destroy Dark Ruler Hades with Dark Magic Attack, taking Bakura's life points down to 1250. Bakura then draws his next card and activates the special ability of his Dark Master Zork, pulling out a dice and rolling it, as Bakura tells Yugi that if he rolls a 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, his Dark Magician will be performing a permanent vanishing act. Yugi then thinks to himself, if Bakura rolls anything but a 6, his Dark Magician is a goner. Although luckily, Yugi's still safe for 2 more turns from attacks. Bakura rolls the dice, as it lands on 3. As Zork charges with a blast from his hands, firing into Yugi's Dark Magician and disintegrating it. Bakura then ends his turn, leaving Yugi with only 1 more turn of protection from swords. Yugi then draws his next card and sees the 4th piece of Exodia. Yugi then looks at his hand and decides to set Curse of Dragon, ending his turn. Bakura draws and immediately summons out a new monster, Goblin Zombie, as he orders Goblin Zombie to destroy Yugi's set monster, as it's revealed to be Curse of Dragon. And since Goblin Zombie only has 1100 attack points and Curse of Dragon has 1500 defense points, Bakura's life points take a hit, down to 850. Bakura then activates the special ability of his Zork, rolling a dice and landing on 2, destroying Yugi's Curse of Dragon. After this, Bakura ends his turn as the Swords of Revealing Light dissipates, as Bakura says that Yugi only has 1 turn left, so he better make it count. Yugi then reaches out to draw a card, as Yugi asks the heart of the cards to guide him, as Yugi draws his final card. Yugi then looks at the card, irks, as Bakura asks what's so funny, as Yugi reveals that the card he pulled is the unstoppable Exodia the Forbidden One. Bakura is extremely shocked at this news, as Yugi places all 5 special cards in the field, all 5 pieces of the puzzle, as the Exodia seal appears behind Yugi, with the powerful monster stepping out. Bakura then says that no one has ever been able to summon Exodia, asking if he somehow managed to pull off a miracle. Exodia then charges with a blast in his hands as Yugi yells out, "Exodia, obliterate!" As Exodia fires off the blast, destroying Goblin Zombie and Dark Master Zork, taking Bakura's life points down to 0, winning Yugi the duel. Yugi then tells the Spirit of the Millennium Ring to give Bakura back to them, as Yugi uses the powerful Mind Crush, causing the Spirit of the Ring to retreat, giving Bakura back full control over his body. From here, a few weeks pass, as Serenity's eye surgery goes off without a hitch, allowing Serenity to fully get her sight back, and the bros, along with Taya, Bakura, Solomon, and Serenity, see a news article about industrial illusions taking over Kaiba Corp, with the president of Industrial Illusions, Maximilian Pegasus, explained that he and Kaiba Boy had a duel. After he beat him, Kaiba Boy just went catatonic. The next day, after school, the gang arrive at the game shop, as Solomon says that Yugi has a visitor waiting for him. It's an older woman with long dark hair and an odd-looking necklace approaches Yugi, addressing him as her pharaoh. The group is rather confused at this, as Yugi politely says that she must have mistaken him for someone else. The woman then introduces herself as Shizu Ishtar, as she reveals that Yugi is the reincarnation of a 5,000-year-old pharaoh, as Yugi's Millennium Puzzle glows, transforming Yugi into Yami Yugi, as Shizu says that her brother is after the Millennium Puzzle and the power of the 3 Egyptian god cards, with the nameless pharaoh saying that he'll try to help as best as he can. As Shizu then says that she has spoken to Maximilian Pegasus, asking him to hold a Duel Monsters tournament to try and lure in her younger brother and his rare hunters, so she can stop his plans to take over the world using the Egyptian god cards and the power of the pharaoh. Yugi, hearing this, agrees to help her, along with the rest of the gang. Joey and Bakura join the tournament as well, the former due to wanting to help his bro, and Bakura joins for his own ulterior motives, although he disguised it as wanting to help Ishizu. Ishizu is glad to hear this, as she pulls out something from her pockets, as Yugi sees it as a Duel Monsters card. Ishizu then reveals the card as Obelisk the Tormentor, one of the 3 Egyptian god cards. Yugi then proceeds to ask Ishizu about the other 2 god cards, as Ishizu reveals that her younger brother Merrick has the other 2, while she only managed to get away with Obelisk. Afterwards, Yugi then takes Obelisk from Ishizu, promising to use it to help her stop her brother, as Yugi transforms back to his normal self. And that's where we'll leave things for right now. So, what did you guys think? My very first soiree to Yu-Gi-Oh! Let me know in the comments below. And before I sign off for today, I'd like to take the time to thank our patrons. We have Raven Sage, Wayne Singleton, Butter Miller, and Yanziel Chevrez. Now with that said, I'll get on out of here. Peace!